next session. I'm just going to pull up a couple things here and we'll get started. I'm going to try and pull up a couple things so we can get started. Depends if the computer's going to work at all. So just a reminder to everybody, if you come in, please make sure that you mute yourself so that we're not picking up any background noise. We're going to go through the presentation and open it up for questions afterwards. There's a lot of material to cover in this one, but we're doing a follow-up on the previous 3 sessions. This is the 4th session dealing with modules. We have one more, and then Don Wood is going to be talking to us about using the invert and rotate modules after that in session 6, which should be a very, very good session. It's really taking it progressively to the next step. So let's just kick right in with the next session.
Can I have permission to record, Mel?
Is that you, Michael?
Rich Williams. No, Rich Williams.
Oh, Richard. Yeah, done. Before we start, anybody else want to be recording? 3, 2, 1, okay. Okay, so what we've looked at so far, you should all have the PowerPoint presentation up, I do believe.
I don't see it.
It should be there. Right. So what we have so far, if I can get rid of that, there we go. We've looked in our session so far, the basic principles of modules, the basic types of modules, the 5 foundation modules, which if you remember are the interactive swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel, centers, pass through, the I'm a caller, need a break line module, pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, first left, next right. The magic module, swing through, girls circulate, boys trade, boys run, bend the line. The other conversion module, sometimes referred to as a magic module, from lines, touch a quarter, circulate, boys run. That converts me from a partner line to a corner box. And then of course the chicken plucker, which half a chicken plucker takes us from a corner box across the street box, and the other half chicken plucker comes back again. We've also looked at identifying modules within a singing call, and that's where you take a singing call and you identify fixed points of the modules, such as, and we've restricted ourselves to corner box and partner lines. I call them fixed points because that's where you can call an Alaman left or a circle left, fix the square anytime you're in a corner box or partner line. Your square is essentially resolved. And we've also looked at Sir Mix and Match a lot, which is basically putting the modules together. One of the things we have not done is we haven't branched out into a digression of, oh, on modules you can also do this, or you can change this by doing that. We haven't even got hot and heavy playing with zeros and technical zeros. We're very, very simple, easy, right at the start, looking at modules and how they work. We're not even scratching the surface yet. We have briefly touched on 2-couple dancing as an isolated site, but we haven't pushed it. And if you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to use it yet. We've also noted that with 2 singing calls that we've used so far, we have our 5 foundation modules and the 6 modules that we got with those singing calls. That gives us 11 modules to work with. That's 165 3-module sequences that we can create without repeating a single sequence. And that gets doubled if we do it for heads and sides. And if we take it up to 4-module sequences without repeating, that adds another 330. I mean, that is a lot of stuff. So who knew there was that much just in simple modules? Like I said, no memorization of any long sequences. There's been no sight resolution or dancer manipulation methods talked about. There's been no unresolved square stress, you know, that stressing out, oh, where's my corner? Not even worried about that yet. And there's been no other known Fazar fixed points to consider. We're not worried about corner lines or cross the street boxes, right-hand lady boxes, or lines out of sequences or any of that kind of stuff. We're into the basic foundation. And as I said, all of this and the next 2 sessions are just scratching the surface of building a calling foundation. And it's from there that you can move on to pick up the perfect system that works for you, such as CRAMs, mental image, site calling, posting, banding. Whatever system you want to use that works for you is the best system for you. But you need to have a foundation to build from first. Let's get on the right screen so this works. So in this session, what we're going to do is expand the process of using modules to actually creating and integrating modules into your patter call in order to complement your singing call. In the last session, all we did was pull out some modules from the singing calls and we added it to the 5 foundation modules and we started calling a patter tip. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start theming our patter, which means we're going to pick a movement or a theme or an idea and we're going to build the whole tip around it. As a new caller, it's important to develop this technique of focus and feature, which a lot of people just call theming, in order to tie your patter call and your singing call together. And now, thus far, it's been done by using the singing call figure and identifying the modules inside of it and introducing the basic movement modules to create the patter sequence. What we're going to do in this session is take it to the next step. And what that is singing calls with a focus module for the patter and site calling. Site calling is an optional. When I'm talking site calling here, I'm only talking about using isolated site with your patter. And we're not talking full site calling here. So we'll look at this and just fundamentally, you're asked to call a tip or you're preparing to call a tip or a bracket if you're in Australia. And you found a singing call that you like and you want to use the movements past the ocean and past to the center as the focus movement. We're going to actually pick 2. So I've dug through the record box and actually pulled out this record. And it's got the figure that was written on the sheet that says heads promenade half, past the ocean, step through, right and left through, pass to the center, square through 3, slide through, past the ocean, ladies trade, recycle, swing your corner, and promenade. Now I looked at that and I said, oh yeah, okay, that's a great figure. It's got both of the figures that I want to focus on. I'm going to make my tip based around two figures, past the ocean and pass to the center. So multi-tip focuses usually mean a relatively constrained use of the movement. So you're only going to use a couple variations. Now I've got there the prime directive for any of you Star Trekkies, but in square dance terms, the prime directive means the dancers come first and must always succeed in both the patter and the singing call. That's what you want to achieve. That's the goal, is keeping the dancers happy. Okay, because you've already got your singing call, we've got the figure up there, and we've got our theme, past the ocean and past to the center. The next basic calling skill for a new caller is preparing to call your first all you patter. This means that you're actually going to be doing the work here. You're not just copying material down and parroting off a cue sheet. You're actually going to be doing the work of developing your own cue sheet. Okay. So remember what we said when we were talking about that? No long sequences. You could have a series of modules and references in a long string, 200 movements long, but chances are once you started calling, a dancer on the floor is going to hiccup or cough, and you're going to look up and, oh, I've lost my place. Where am I? I don't know. And then you got to stop and try and find it, and the dancers are standing around. You could easily lose your place. Your memory might slip, or you might forget one movement and get flustered. And then you got to, oh, where am I? And you've got this whole long sequence that you've got to get through before you get to the Alaman left. My suggestion to you is it's best to avoid that entirely. Don't even go down that road. What you need to know for your bracket or your tip is 1 or 2 fixed point modules that highlight your focus movement. And to start with, we stick with corner box and partner line type modules. Why? Because they're the easiest modules. They're already in your toolbox. You've already developed them. You've already developed the 5 foundation modules that are based on them. You've checked them. You know they work, and they can complement your singing call. When you're calling and you're using these modules, you can also relax just a little bit because you know they work. You know they work. You can take a breath and refocus for when you do try and do a sight calling of the movements in an isolated site or a snapshot or crossover to interact the squares with a chicken plucker routine. The idea is you want to keep the routines short, you want to keep them simple, and you want to ensure your focus is with the modules. And you want to ensure the focus modules work so that when you're using them, you can glance, Refer to the module, but watch the dancers and make sure that they succeed. So you prepared a singing call figure and you decided for the ease of this document, and because I prefer doing it this way, that you only want to use one routine. So our routine here is heads promenade halfway, past the ocean, step through, right and left through, pass to the center, center square through 3, slide through, past the ocean, ladies trade, recycle, that's the corner, swing the corner. With the concurrent activity, that's 42 beats to the swing and a full promenade. Now you notice I've got the heads promenade underlined there. There's a reason for it. In a lot of areas, and I tend to agree with this, a lot of callers don't like ending a singing call figure with a promenade and then starting the next figure with a promenade, because you promenade home with a full promenade and then you do another half promenade, and over a third of your record is done with promenades. It's not something you should be worrying about yet as a new caller, but if you are aware of it and you want to make a change, it's an easy change to make. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that promenade to a heads pass through and wheel around. Not a big fix, doesn't change anything. It actually cuts a couple of beats off the music, makes it a little easier to dance, but the dancers aren't always promenading. And remember, you can always look for little equivalents to help you out with the timing or flow changes. For example, instead of doing a step through, you could do extend, bounce, and a right and left through, or you could even do centers pass through and a right and left through. All these things give you options of playing with the music or developing fudge factors. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at that figure and see what it looks like. So, do you have terminations up on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it actually worked this time. Yay. Okay, so if we do this, we've changed our figure from heads promenade to heads pass through and wheel around. And the whole thing looks like this. Heads pass through and wheel around. Same heads pass the ocean and step through, right and left through. Pass to the center, there's our second focus. Center square through 3, this is going on at the same time as they were doing that trade. Slide through, pass the ocean, ladies trade, recycle, swing your corner, and promenade. That takes 42 beats to the swing, and it gives me ample room to get home. Okay, so the very next step that we need to do, PowerPoint presentation is back up, I hope.
Yes.
Excellent, oh, it's working today, I love it. Okay, so the next step that we need to do is we need to identify our fix points. And as I said, for new callers, it's best that you restrict your fix points to corner box and partner line only until you get comfortable with different FASR states and what to do with them. Right now, we're just gearing for new callers, learning, getting comfortable with moving and using these types of techniques. So we've identified after the step through, heads pass through, wheel around, pass the ocean, step through, we're in a corner box. A right and left through, pass to the center, square through 3, we're back in a corner box and we have the left hand free. A slide through, pass the ocean, ladies trade, recycle, we're back to a corner box. So we've got 3 fix points and they're all corner boxes. So that tells me I need to do some work. Natalie keeps coming in and out. In order to do this, for the first time, I'm going to actually create my own modules. So as a new caller, I'm here, I've got this thing and I want to do pass the ocean and pass to the center. I need to create my own modules using those 2 figures. So I prepared some simple modules for just the purpose of this document. And the modules are, I've got 2 corner box modules, 2 partner line modules, 1 corner box to partner line conversion, 1 partner line to corner box conversion, and a resolve for each both corner box and partner line. I also note that my singing call has the corner box fix points, and they all end in the corner box from which I can do an Alaman left smoothly. So those are some free modules. Now I'm going to prepare all of those, but I'm only going to put maybe 1 or 2 or 1 of each in my cue sheet. Okay, so remember what we talked about last time when we talked about a reference sheet? It's no difference than the last session, the last reference sheet that you made, and the process is exactly the same. There's absolutely nothing new here. Okay, the reference sheet should list all the modules you need for that particular tip or bracket on it. It needs to be done in such a way that you are comfortable with the layout. It doesn't matter who else looks at it and says that's garbage or whatever. If it works for you, it's right. It needs to be done large enough that you can read it at a distance. You've got to be able to look at it out of the corner of your eye on the computer screen when it's up there or on a sheet of paper on the table, that you can refresh at a glance without having that piece of paper in front of you. There's nothing worse than calling a dance and going, head square through 4, do a do-si-do, swing through. When you can go, I'm watching the dance, head square through 4 to get 4 hands around you go, and then make an ocean wave, swing through, girls circulate, boys, and you just quick glance, you're there, and away you go. If you're going to use shorthand, you've got to be consistent. Me personally, I prefer longhand. I like writing it out. My guideline is if you're going to do theming or a focus, the maximum you should ever use in a theme is 2 movements. That's the maximum. And they should be interrelated if possible. Like I'm using past the ocean and past to the center. I would not do 3 movements as a focus. If I'm using variant choreography, such as extended applications, only use 1. You want to keep it so it's simple and the dancers succeed always. If you put too much technical stuff into it, it's too complex for the dancers. You've got to look at it from their point of view, not just yours. And finally, you've got to dance your modules. You've got to check the body flow for all the boys and all the girls. Okay. So what we're going to look at next is essentially a reference sheet. But what you've got to remember is what works for you is what you need to do. So this is essentially a blank reference sheet. This is what I'm going to start with. It may not be what I finally end up with, but this is what I'm going to start with. I've got my singing call figure, heads pass through, wheel around, past the ocean, center step through. I've identified fixed point, corner box. Right and left through, pass to the center, center square through 3. That corner box should be there. So we're going to fix that. This is why you always go back and check your work, because sure enough, you're going to make a mistake, just like I did that intentionally, by the way. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. Okay, so we've got our singing call figure. Silly thing. Yeah, I fixed it below. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start developing our modules. So we'll reset that. We've looked at our singing call figure. So what we want to start with is we want a corner box to corner box module that uses either past the ocean, pass to the center, or both. So I'm just using heads pair off to establish the corner box. So there's our corner box. So we've got our checkers out, which is exactly what I did for these. Slide through, yep, that works. Pass the ocean, all 8 circulate, right and left through, pass through, trade by, and I'm in a corner box. I've got a corner box to corner box module. It's a footprint module. It's an exact module. It's a geographic module. Great. I can use that in any box. Doesn't matter if it's a corner box or not. I know I can use that in any box. But as I said, I want to make 2 modules for each of these. So let's try another one. And that would be, okay. I look at this, I get to my corner box. Yep, I've got my number 1 couple here, number 4 couple on the, or number 1 man, 4 couple on the outside. There's my corner box. Pass to the center, double pass through, cloverleaf, and the center's pass through. Is that a corner box? Yes, it is. However, I also note that I no longer have the sides on the outside. I've got the heads on the outside, and I'm no longer going sideways across the floor, I'm going up and down the floor. So that's an invert and rotate module. So doesn't mean I can't use it. I'm just going to make that note though, invert and rotate, because sometimes it's good to change the direction you're going. I also need a corner box to a partner line module. So what I do first is I work on all my corner box stuff. So I get my checkers out and I come up with another little module. And I got to make sure that I'm using pass the ocean or pass to the center in it. So this one's got to pass the ocean, oh, tidal wave. Swing through feels a little different, and the very center girls trade. Everybody hinge and face in. Square through 2, trade by, all slide through. Yep, that's a partner line module. But it's changed the line as well. That's actually rotated the line from 1 and 2 in the same line to 1 and 4 in the same one. So I just make a little note of that. Doesn't really matter because it's a corner box to a partner line, and a corner box to a partner line is a corner box to a partner line. And I need a resolution module for a corner box. And this one, again, we start in our corner box, slide through, pass the ocean, there's my focus. Girls run, bend the line, yep, that works fine. Square through 2 to a right and left grand. And they should all have their partners for a promenade. Yep, works beautifully. And they're in sequence. So I've now got all of my corner box modules. The next thing I need to look at is my partner line modules. So, and I'm not going to go through them all. I've already done a few of them, and you'll see them here. But we've got, you know, a few things here that we want to look at. Come on. Just like on the corner box module, if it inverts and rotates, notice this is couple number 1 and couple number 2 in the same line. Doesn't really matter, we're only using these, but swing through, boys run, reverse flutter wheel. Okay, it's still couple number 1 and couple 2, but it's rotated. So I'll just put that little notation on my sheet as I go through these. And all of these choreographic figures are going to be in the handout and on the slides. So what I've done is essentially I've got a reference sheet that looks something like this now. It shows me my singing call with my fixed points. It shows me where I can interject or put a corner box module in. It shows me that I can get to a partner line into a partner line to a corner box, which is right here, and then finish with any of the corner box modules. Or I can just call a circle left. I've got everything done there. I've noted here, this corner box to corner box inverts and rotates. This partner line to partner line rotates the sequence. So I just made notes like that. I've got all the hard work done. I've double checked it. I've checked the flow on these things. I make sure they work. I make sure they time out well for both the boys and the girls. I now have a reference sheet that I'm almost ready to start putting things together and start putting the music down to. I still haven't even put the record down. Okay. The hard part now comes putting it all together. And as you can see, there are a lot of parts to modules. We've got the ones we just created. We've got our 5 foundation modules. And if you remember, what's going on here? If you remember that, we've got our 5 foundation modules, and here we've got 8 new modules. 9, 10, 11 new modules. So that's 5 and 11, 16 modules. I wonder how many sequences that is without repeating. That's an awful lot. Okay. So just like in The Hobbit, there and back again, a collar's tale in 357,962,807 parts. There's a lot to it. It sounds daunting. It's actually a lot easier than you think it is. You already know how to do this. You've done it already right at the beginning. You've done it already right when you prepared your first singing call. You've done it when you did your first patter using the singing call figure. You've done it when you've done your first patter call using the singing call figure, identifying simple modules. You did it when you did the simple modules out of your singing call figure and used the 5 foundation modules, and you put it all together in a theme. All we're doing is just taking it one step. The only thing that's changed is we created the modules. This is all you now. It's not somebody else's work. You already know the singing call that uses your focus movement. You've chosen a focus movement for the theme or your bracket or your tip. You've prepared the modules and you've highlighted the focus on them. You know that a corner box is a corner box and a partner line is a partner line. They work both the same, and because we're not using any differences between those two, we don't have to worry about the invert and rotates. At this point, we can use them. We know we're only going to be using those two as fixed points because they allow us to get out to an allemande left or a circle left or something very quickly. We know how to do isolated sight, ideally. That's our 2 couple dancing with maybe an interactive, like a right and left through veer left Ferris wheel centers pass through, or an 8 chain 4 or something along that line. And you don't have to do 2 couple sight if you don't want to. You can try it. It's entirely up to you. We know our 5 foundation modules, especially the chicken plucker. We can get to a corner box, call half a chicken plucker, go to the other side and call a corner box module, do a half a chicken plucker back and call an allemande left, and it's going to feel completely different than doing head square through and doing exactly the same thing. Because you're dancing with different people, it will feel different. The same as changing heads and sides feels different. And you have resolutions modules prepared to put in anytime you have a corner box or partner line. And you know that you can always call an allemande left from either one of those. And if emergency happens, and it will, I guarantee you, it will happen sometimes, you'll get lost. Just pair up a couple on the outside, call allemande left, right and left grand, and promenade home. Let them sort out, take a breath, refocus, and start again. We're not worried about sight resolution. We're not worried about stop and go dancing. All we're worried about is giving the dancers a good time and letting them dance. That would be my phone. Okay. So now you're ready to start calling without reservation at all. You got to keep in mind your focus movements, past the ocean and past to the center. And what that does, you've got to consider the introduction. We want to start calling a tip, so we start considering how are we going to get the dancers to think the way we're thinking. How that's done is your opener right at the beginning. It's important that you get the dancers to know you and to know your voice and to adjust to your voice. It also allows you to see the dancers and how they react to you. And it essentially gets them to understand your expectations for each and every tip you're going to call. That opener is very important because it sets the tone for the rest of the tip. So consider these 2 following. Join hands, circle left halfway. Men, make a right hand star. Back.
Somebody mute Mel.
That's me. I'm trying to shut the phone off, but it won't shut off.
You need to be muted, Mel.
No, that's actually my phone.
I know.
I'm trying to shut it off. There we go. Okay, so consider these 2 openers. Circle left halfway, men star right. Allemande left, box the net. Ladies promenade inside, swing your partner and promenade home. Now, consider that versus circle left halfway, men star right, allemande left, box the net, 4 ladies promenade inside, box the net, right and left grand, and you're home. There's not very much difference between those 2, but the first one sets a tone for a relaxing, relatively easy dance of flowing movements. The second one says the choreography is going to flow, but you're going to have to listen a bit because there could be something just a little bit different in it. Just by that little subtle change, nice, simple, smooth dancing, you've keyed the dancers to you and what you want to achieve. You've turned their ears on. Okay. Step 2 is getting the dancers into a setup formation. So we're just going to start with the corner box. And we can use anything, heads square through or heads flutter wheel lead to the right. We can use the opener from our singing call, heads pass through and wheel around, pass the ocean, step through, or whatever. Any sequence to a corner box will do if that's what we're going to start with. But each one that you use, if it's square through, is going to give you a different message than heads pass through, wheel around, pass the ocean, and step through. It's just like getting on that school bus for your first day of school. Okay. How it starts on that school bus is what's going to set the tone for that day. It can also set the tone for school. The same thing applies with your opening figure, the way you open the dance, and the opening figure, your get in for the first sequence that you're going to call for that sequence or for that entire bracket. Each one of those is going to set the tone. So use them wisely. So you're going to call, once you've got the get in, you're going to call one of the modules and observe how they do it. So we're just going to start with a head square through 4. That got us to a corner box. We've got our module that we practiced, slide through, pass the ocean, all 8 circulate, balance. Do the right and left through, pass through, trade by. Now you notice I put a balance in there for my patter because some places they're not all that comfortable doing an all 8 circulate to a right and left through. Other places are. There's nothing wrong with saying balance forward and back and a right and left through. It gives the dancers a chance to understand what you want and maximizes their success, and you can easily wean them off. Okay. From there, I can call an Alaman left, or I can do another module and then do an Alaman left, or I can do a corner box resolution module. So I'm just going to pick the corner box resolution module, which is slide through, pass the ocean, ladies run, bend the line, square through 2, right and left grand. So that whole sequence now, after I've done my opener with the box, the nat, right and left grand, and you're home, that whole sequence should look something like this. Here's my first start of the pattern. Head square through 4 hands. Slide through. Pass the ocean. All 8 circulate. Balance forward and back. And a right and left through. Pass through, trade by. Slide through. Pass the ocean. And the girls run around a boy. Ooh, that's a little different. Bend the line, that still works well. Square through 2, 1, 2, right and left grand. Away they go. And promenade home. What you've done is you've introduced yourselves to the dancers. You've used a get in which tells them that it's going to be fine and comfortable. You've used a module to move them around and interact them as well. You've given them a resolved surprise to a right and left grand, which they succeeded at with no trouble. And you've made a square of happy dancers. And you know what? You've only just begun and you've already used 1/3 of your music. So we've done an introduction, we've done a get in, we've done a module, we've done a resolution. This is just building on the same format that we already know. And the outcome, happy dancers. The next step, I call this calling without reservation. The dancers are doing fine. So you've decided that you're going to do a little bit of extemporaneous sight calling, a little bit of 2-couple calling. You're going to get into a corner box because your caller mentor says, hey, I want you to start practicing your sight. Just work with 2 couples. Get them to a point, have a look at them, get them back to that same point, and then you can call an Alaman left or do a resolution module. But make sure you use the theme. You know, our theme is pass the ocean and pass to the center. So I look at this and I get into a corner box, head square through, and then I start thinking in my mind, I'm watching the dancers. Okay, touch a quarter, scoot back again. Girls run around a boy, okay, reverse flutter wheel. I got the girls going in, yeah, okay, that's about right. No, I've got the boys going in on the reverse flutter wheel, that's right. Veer to the right. Oops, wait a minute. That's a veer to the right from facing lines. That puts it really, really tight in a tidal wave. Boys run to the right. Ooh, that's not all that comfortable. Boys trade, yeah, okay. Everybody hinge and in your own four do a walk and dodge and a partner trade. That was not very comfortable at all, but it works. What did that mean? Oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? So let's have a look and see what happened here. And trust me, as a caller, you are going to do something like this. Everybody will do this. So you're trying isolated sight. So we get to our square through four. We've got a corner box. Heads are on the outside. I know if I get the heads back on the outside and I keep these four dancers together, once I get back there, I'm fine. So I'm just going to work these four. So let's get rid of that one. 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 And let's get rid of a couple numbers. I just want the white on. I want these four dancers here. I call a do-si-do. Do I need a do-si-do? No, I don't. Why did I call that? That was just to fix that in my mind, who is dancing with who and what the footprints are. If you don't need to use it, don't use it. If you don't need a forward and back, don't use it. But if you do want to use it and fix that in your mind, as a fix in your mind, there's nothing wrong with doing it. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The dancers don't mind an occasional do-si-do or a forward and back. So here's where isolated sight. We touch a quarter, scoot back. I'm going to scoot back again. Yeah, that's working fine so far. Girls running around a boy, that's good. Reverse flutter wheel, I've got the girls going in. Good. Veer to the right. Uh-oh, that's not all that comfortable. Boys, trade, boys, run. Good. Hinge, walk and dodge. Ooh, partner trade. Ooh. Alaman left, right and left grand. Oh my goodness. All I can say is, oops, I almost got in trouble there. I wanted to call something else, but I made an error. I also lost focus. I didn't use any of my theme moves. I ended up in a place I didn't want to be, that tidal wave with the boys going this way. Oh my God, what happened? But what I did do is I didn't panic. I got back to my snapshot figure, heads on the outside there, and I called an Alaman left, a right and left grand, swing your partner promenade. The reason I called Alaman left, right and left grand, swing and promenade, it gave me a chance to breathe, to settle down, glance at my module sheet, and refresh for the next sequence. It doesn't matter that I didn't use my focus movement. The dancers are dancing, and that's what's important. If you need to, you can even do another short filler there and give yourself a breather. Just get yourself centered. What's important is the dancers are still dancing and having a good time, but you need to recover them because that was hard for them to dance too. Even though it's relatively simple, they got through it, they probably would not have liked it. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at maybe working from a line and go back to my module sheet and working simple. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to do a partner line. Heads lead to the right, circle to a line. Nice, simple get in. Everybody knows that one. Then I'm going to insert a partner line module. These are all from my worksheet. Pass the ocean, split circulate, swing through, boys run, reverse flutter wheel. Okay, the dancers are doing fine. They're dancing well. I can call a circle left here, but they're going really well. I'm going to use a get out. Pass the ocean, ladies trade, recycle. Pass to the center, center's left square through three, everybody square through three, Alaman left, and again, I'm going to end it with a right and left grand. So what I've done is I've used a pass the ocean, then I've used another pass the ocean, and I've used a pass to the center. I've got the whole thing there. I haven't had to think about anything or do anything. I know these work, and I know the dancers are dancing quite well. And what it looks like for them, especially after that little fiasco of my isolated sight calling, is this. Hang on a second. Let's just reset that to blue and yellow. Put the numbers back on just for everybody to see. Oops, a couple numbers. There we go. So what it looks like for everybody is heads lead to the right, circle to a line. Here's my first focus. Once I'm in a line, pass the ocean, split circulate, swing through. Boys run around a girl, There's the facing lines, reverse flutter, it flows nicely. The boys are picking up the girl. Back to the line, past the ocean, and the ladies trade. A recycle, I'm back to pass to the center, left square through 3. Everybody square through 3. Alaman left to your corner. Right and left grand. And a square to set. So that worked really, really nice for the dancers. And after all, that's who we're in here for. If you do it like this, we had our oops, the dancers are still happily dancing. They got through another sequence, they're doing this. They've forgotten all about that little corner box oops that we made in that second sequence. For you, it's time to move on. So step 7, you start to mix and match and integrate some of your 2-couple sight calling modules that you have from your preparation sheet. And your rhythm might look something like this. Static square to a corner box. Heads promenade halfway past the ocean step through. I actually used a promenade in my pattern. Don't have to. I can change that if I want. I do a 2-couple sight calling. Pass through, girls run to the left. Everybody hinge. Chain down the line, veer to the left. Ladies trade. Ferris wheel, there's my little interactive movement and pass through. I use that instead of calling a wheel and deal. I use a corner box to a corner box module. Pass to the center, double pass through. Cloverleaf, centers pass through. That's an invert and rotate, but it's still a corner box. And I know I can do an Alaman left from there, but the dancers are doing really well, so I'm going to finish this by using a corner box resolve. Right and left through, pass to the center, square through 3, and promenade home. So here is really the 4th sequence I'm calling. What do we got here? That should be. Hang on, it's coming. Okay, so I can call promenade half past the ocean, or heads pass through, wheel around, sides past the ocean. I just changed that. Step through, there's the corner box. Girls run, hinge, chain down the line from a tidal wave, followed by a veer to the left. That's pretty nice. Ladies trade, Ferris wheel. There's my interactive with the centers pass through, back to the corner box. Pass to the center with a double pass through, cloverleaf. That's the invert and rotate module. I've now got the sides back on the outside. Square through 3 in the middle. Alaman left. And a right and left grand. Now you may have noticed this is our 3rd sequence, and we've used an opener and we've used a little bit of filler break. This is 98 steps. An average is 64 beats for a figure. This is the 4th. We're almost 3/4 of the way through the pattern call yet, and we've only used 4 modules of our sequence. We've repeated a couple. We've done, mix and match. The dancers are happy. The dancers are dancing. I noticed from my isolated sight there, once again, I did not use my focus move. So, perhaps I'm not quite ready to do that yet. It did work, however, and by luck, it kept the dancers in the tidal wave from that first oops, but this time it worked and flowed. And if you didn't catch that, we'll just have another quick look at it. So I did my get in, pass through, wheel around and back away, sides, past the ocean, and step through. There's my corner box. I snapshotted. I put number 3 couple on the outside facing these 2. This is my snapshot figure. So I'm doing a little bit of isolated sight. Pass through, and I had the girls run around the boy. Ooh, that's interesting. Hinge, chain down the line. It flows nice. It's a little tight. Veer to the left, that's good. Ferris wheel, and the centers pass through, and there's my isolated sight box. Back to my modules, pass to the center, double pass through. This is the invert and rotate module that I have on my reference sheet. Centers pass through, right and left through, pass to the center, square through 3, so on and so on and so on and so on, and they move very quickly home. So the dancers at this point are going, wow. They forgot all about that oops. And this time the oops that I have not using my focus worked, and it worked well. The dancers feel that they almost had trouble the first time, but they got it the second time and they were successful. They don't remember the choreography itself. All they remember is you were doing something funky and tight in that tidal wave. This time it was comfortable and smooth. They're happy. The dancers are really, really impressed by just how good a caller you've become. And here you are claiming to be a brand new caller. This is quality stuff that you're calling. The dancers are going, wow. And you're going, yeah, I'm doing really, really good as a caller. Well, as soon as you think that, this is what I want you to do. Step 8. Stop thinking like that. If you're thinking, yay, I'm doing really, really well, you're thinking of it the wrong way around. What you've got to think is, are the dancers doing well? And if the dancers are doing well and they're happy, you know you're doing well. You're going to know you're doing well by the dancer reaction, the dancer movement on the floor. So whatever you do, don't get cocky about it. Dancers at this point also need a little break. So give them a little time or a little bit of a relaxation figure, similar to a middle break, something easy and danceable, but just a little bit different. You know, you could do something like 4 ladies chain 3/4. Girls run to the left to an Alamo ring, balance. Left swing through again, Alaman left, right and left grand. Whatever you want to do, you know, this is the time to remember that it's all about the dancers. It's not about you. They're doing well. They're your judge. You are not their judge. Step 9, we go back and repeat. It's time to start mixing and matching. We use a different get into a corner box or a partner line, and I'm sure you know lots of those. And it's just like taking a trip. You know, you go from home to the office every day, but if you take a different route, it's going to feel different every day. It's like if you work from home, get up, get dressed, have a shower, get dressed, do it in that order, go outside, walk around the house, come in the back door, and then go to your office in your house. It's going to feel different. Every time it's going to feel like a new experience, even though you're getting to the same place. You can get into a corner box. You can use a lot of variety. You can build your modular sequences, static square to a corner box to corner box to partner line to partner line, partner line to resolve. That's a big, long sequence. Or you can use short, different sequences. Or you can use little short 3-couple sequences. You can change it up. You can use a little bit of 2-couple sight. You can use a get into a corner box, call a half-head chicken plucker, and do a corner box module, and do a half chicken plucker back and call an Alaman left. Or if you're working partner lines, convert it to a partner line, call a circle left, and then go into a relaxation break module. The only limitation that you have on your ability to call is the limitation that you put on yourself. It's not your material. With those sequences that you have there, you can make 91 2-module, 364 3-module, and over 1,000 4-module combinations without repeating. I'm not going to go into the math again, just trust me on that one. And you can double that if you want to start heads or sides enter each time. Okay, so change it up. A simple way of changing up is just changing in your entryway. You know, instead of calling heads square through, heads right and left through, roll away, slide through. Or heads star through and zoom. Don't ever call that, by the way. Please do not ever call heads star through and zoom. In fact, let's change that right now. That should be, what do we want here? Change that to heads pass through, cloverleaf. Head star through and zoom is old school calling. Very uncomfortable for the ladies. It was acceptable a while ago, about 30, 40 years ago, but it's no longer considered acceptable anymore. So just bear in mind, there's all sorts of little things like that. But just changing the opener changes the whole feel of the figure. Okay? So calling success is really simple. All you got to do is remember it's about them. It's not about you. And despite the many methods and technical aspects that you want to understand, the dancers don't see it that way. The reality is the dancers don't care about the technicalities. The dancers don't care about the modules. The dancers don't care about crams. The dancers don't care about mental imaging. That's your job. That's not their job. What they want is entertainment, fun. They want to dance and they want to socialize. And you can be as complicated or as simple as you want, as long as you entertain them successfully and they succeed at it. The simple reality is the great callers have found their method, they've mastered the basics, and they've built on it. And they didn't learn that in a day or even a year, sometimes not even in a decade. They still learn, they still practice, and they know simply it boils down to a simple formula to be successful. And that formula is there are two types of callers. Caller one is the caller that knows his stuff or her stuff really, really well, but doesn't know how to present it or use it properly. It's always technically correct, and they'll argue with you and they'll walk you through it a dozen times to make sure that you get it, and they'll make sure that you explain and you understand that, you know, that phantom whiz bang with the inverted chinchilla coat. You know, they'll make sure you get through it, but you'll walk off the floor having succeeded without success. It's too much work and it's not much fun. That is not a successful caller. That's a caller that's calling for him or herself. Or two, the successful caller. The successful caller knows what the caller knows and knows it well. May not be a lot, but he knows what he knows well, or she knows well. They present it well, and they keep building on what they know and building on what the dancers know. And the result is the dancers are entertained, the dancers are happy, they get challenged, they build on what they know successfully and continue to build on it. They have fun and they want to come back, even though that dance may not be technically perfect. Okay. What you have to remember is you've got to build your foundation skills first. The formula is using the tools that you have in your toolbox of knowledge, regardless of the size or the number of tools, you've got to use them properly. Plus, working usable and practice modules. Doing that equals a happy, successful dancers that want to have more. All of the rest of the calling stuff like sight resolution, crams, mental image, and everything else, that'll all come in time. But you need the foundation to build that. Now, a caller that knows how to use the tools available, prepares and practices the modules for interchangeability, flexibility, and assembles them in a tip that creates a successful, happy square of dancers is a successful caller. That caller is going to have dancers on the floor coming to his or her dance if they can dance the advertised program, regardless of whether or not they're advanced dancers and it's a basic program. If he or she is calling a multi-event and there's multiple halls, they'll come to that dance because they like the way that person calls. They like to be entertained. They like to be challenged. They like to feel good about themselves, and that caller makes them feel good about themselves. That's what this activity is all about, getting happy dancers on the floor and keeping them there. And this is just one foundation skill of achieving that goal. So that is an awful lot of material. So I'm going to stop the share here, have a look and see, oh my goodness, we still have people here. I'm surprised. I thought maybe everybody left. And we'll open it up.
Mel,
Yes.
page 19 on the presentation. I think there might have been an error in your typing.
Page 19, this one.
Yeah, down there, bottom section, find a new partner line, and isn't that supposed to be CB? Or do I not understand what BC openers is?
Or CB.
Where are we here?
Find right there by your mouse. Find a few different PL and BC openers.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you got to remember, I'm in Australia, so we're on the other side of the planet. So it was the other way around. I forgot to convert it to North American language. Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to that.
I just thought I'd point that out before you ship that off to everybody.
Saved. Thank you. No, absolutely, it's corner box. So the floor is open. I'm quite sure there's a lot of questions. I would like to reiterate Although there's a lot more that you can do with modules, there's a lot more with modules. We've gone from basic, this is how to use a movement. These are your simple movement things that do things such as star through, pass through, bend the line, will change directions, those kinds of things. We've identified 2 fixed point formations, corner box and partner line, just as a starting point. We've identified our 5 foundation modules that every caller, regardless of whether they've been calling for 100 years or they've been calling for 100 minutes, should learn and memorize as part of the repertoire, those 5 basic foundation modules. We've learned how to take a module out of our singing call and apply it with those foundation modules to do our first patter tip. We haven't written anything. We've learned how to find modules that work with our patter tip, and we haven't written anything. This is the first time we're actually doing all you're writing your own choreography, if you will, to develop some short, simple modules that the dancers can dance, and you're developing that routine. And every sequence of this builds on the next. And we still have not looked at sight calling. We still have not looked at sight resolution because they come later on. They're down the floor. They are important, but these are foundations to start at the beginning. So the floor is open. You guys can unmute yourself. You can wave at me. Remember, we're on a couple of screens here. We got 43 people. So
I've got something to say.
Rod.
Yes. Good afternoon from California. This is just like learning to speak a language.
Yes, it is.
We're toddlers at this point, and we learn how to form sentences. We learn what verbs and adjectives. I mean, it's the exact same thing as learning a new language. So all these little steps will form a complete process at another time and all work together. Some of the stuff, you just put it in the back of your mind and it'll always be there, but you have to learn each one of these steps to move on to the next step.
That's correct. And that's what we're doing right now. I know there is so much more to it. When I was asked to do this session on modules, it actually flowed out of a couple of other sessions that were done, a 40-minute session on modules and a 25-minute session on modules that had everything you wanted to know in 40 minutes and you understood nothing. Because it was designed for callers that understood the process. It was excellent theory and absolutely sound stuff, but actually breaking it down step by step, walking through it is the important thing, to see how it works and understanding how it works so that you can build. And you're right, it is baby steps. It's learning the process and practicing to walk before you run. Daryl, I saw you raising your hand. I don't know if you were waving to somebody in the house or you were wanting to say something.
I was waving at somebody in the house. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Say hi for me too.
Hi, Mel. Hi, everybody. Nice job, Mel.
Thank you. Hi, Joni. I muted you there because you got some background noise going on. So I muted you there a little earlier while Rod was talking. What's up?
A quick question. I'm using the SSD program, now called the Social Square Dancing Program.
Yep.
And we don't have all of the calls because I'm teaching it. So each week we're learning 2 to 4 calls. How do you work out getting to a corner box or a partner line when you don't have all the calls at the beginning? You're 12 weeks long.
I wish you were here when we were talking. Like, I opened up the room a couple hours early, and Helen from Sweden, she's in there somewhere in that mix. We were talking, and I said, you actually have an advantage over callers that call the mainstream program and the plus program if you're starting out with new dancers. And the advantage is you have to learn to use your material that you have to make corner boxes and partner lines. You don't have wheel and deal, or you don't have square through, but you do have heads promenade halfway, come down the middle, join hands, circle left 3/4, pass through, right and left through, dive through, pass through, or heads, join hands, circle left 3/4, or head ladies chain, promenade. You may have a star through, you may not. You may have a pass through, face your corner. All of those are in the SSD program that you can use. The reality of the SSD program is there's 14 movements that are not on the basic and mainstream program. That's the SSD program. It's mainstream, less 14 movements, standard application, and some symmetrical and extended application. That's the whole SSD program. That's what people usually call. When you're teaching the SSD program, it's the same as teaching a basic and a mainstream class. You only have a limited number of movements to use. Making the modules with a limited number of movements is a big challenge for callers. It's where most callers will fall apart. And it's also where most new callers will develop fantastic skills of development because they learn to use the materials they have. When I say most callers will fall apart, one of the big exercises that we had at a caller school with Tony and Bill Harrison and Ken Rituzzi, they limited us to the mainstream program, and then every 5 minutes they take a movement off the program that we were no longer allowed to use. So take away, right and left through. Take away, right and left through is a big thing for callers. Then take away, slide through, and star through. That's an even bigger thing for callers. And suddenly you find yourself really working to use the material. When I say you have an advantage, you know exactly what your dancers can do. That's where your limitation is your imagination. Heads make a right-hand star to find your corner. That'll work. Does that answer your question at all?
Yes, it helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Just look at the material you have and see what you want to use to get out. Rick Hampton and Rod Shuping, I don't know if Rick is with us today, but we got talking a while back about using stars differently, just using stars from lines and using stars from blocks, because it's a very underused movement. You very rarely see people make a right-hand star from facing lines, but it's a beautiful call if you know how to use it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Tony Oxidine uses it better than anyone.
I've never seen Tony doing that, so I can't comment on that, but I know I've had that conversation with Rick a few times. The floor is open for questions. I'm going to save
I
this.
have an addition. I have an addition to how to get into a corner box. I will submit an article to Behind the Mic in a couple of days, just because of that question. I devised a list of many get into a zero box or a corner box without using square through, ordered in teaching order of the Call Lab mainstream program. And it starts with the first call, or one of the first calls. Hit, swing your opposite and face your corner. And there you are. But yeah. I will submit an article to Behind the Mic for the next edition.
Love to have it.
Mel, I have a question. In your PowerPoint presentation, you had a reference chart in there. Yeah. Is there a way, is that something that you made or created, and is there a way that we could get a copy of that?
I'm just doing that right now for you, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, so that little chart, if you got the exercise booklet from the last session, where's Zoom? If you got the exercise booklet from the last session, it's the exact same chart from the last session. It's just a template. And it's also, I'm just putting these down here. It's also in the document file that I'm about to attach, so please nobody send me a personal chat. To everyone. Why am I not able to attach a document? Well, that's interesting. It's not letting me attach a document. Test. It's not letting me use the chat. I have no idea why I cannot post a document in chat. I can post a document. Mark, did I make you a host or co-host?
Co-host.
Okay, so let's try and do it. Everyone. There we go. Now it's working. So here we go. The floor is open, by the way. Please, if you've got any questions or comments.
It was an exceptional presentation.
It must have been. Everybody's quiet. It almost never happens.
Do you happen to have a good way in which to learn modules and retain them? Because I can learn them and recite them, but then after a week, they're gone.
Yep, I do. I have an excellent way of learning and using them and retaining them. In the last session, there's a chart of learning, and it's number 2, number 4, number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is practice, 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 and practice. That's really the only way you can. I've got a network disconnect. Am I still on with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
It's telling me my network is disconnected, so I'm trying. Really, the only way to really get used to doing this is to start small, pick one, learn it, use it. Pick the next one, learn it, use it, practice it. Pick the next one, learn it, use it, practice it. Start.
Some of the learning tools that they say is if you write things down, it helps you remember it. So
Yeah.
add that to the learn it, practice it, write it down. It helps you retain it.
Okay, I'm having a little bit of difficulty posting documents because it keeps telling me the network is being disconnected. But I will make sure that these documents do get posted, or if you want, my email was at the start of the presentation. I'll put that in the chat.
Mel, do you still have 2 screens running?
I do, but I'm not in share.
No, but I wonder if you're trying to use the wrong screen and you're not.
No, I'm trying to post it in the chat.
Yeah, but the host, the other screen may not be the host.
Can everybody see that in the chat window, my email?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where it's going to.
There's another way. When I was a bit younger, it was easy for me to learn the lyrics of a singing of a song on hearing it the first or second time. Then I could recite it. I could do the song, which helped me a lot when I was playing music. But I could not learn a singing call by heart. The words did not make any sense. As soon as I understood what the calls were doing, I was able to learn it.
Yeah.
So when you know where the calls bring you, then you can, then you have a connection in your memory to get you to from the beginning to the module to the end of the module. If you don't know what you're doing, you cannot learn it.
Yeah.
Yes. Could I say something?
Absolutely, Daryl.
Guido, you hit it right on the head. You don't want to try to memorize it like it's lyrics. It's not words, it's directions. And if you can say, okay, basically I'm doing that right and left through. Even though it might be a step to the way girls trade and boys cross fold or something along that line. That would be a module. But you have to relate it to something else. Here to there. And if it's equivalent modules, equivalence for square throughs, it's from here to there, but up here, it's that square through. It's not just words. Keep them short, keep them simple, but keep in your head just exactly where you're going with it. That's the important part of it. Relate it to something you already know.
Yeah. There are a myriad of memory tricks that work, but it's like anything else. It's like I'm absolutely horrible with names, and Daryl gave an excellent presentation on memory. When I go to a hall, I'll go, oh, hi, I'm Mel Wilkerson. I'm Daryl. Daryl Clinton. Oh, pleased to meet you, Daryl. How are you today, Daryl? And I may sound like a bit like a moron, but I'll use his names 3 times in the first 3 sentences to force it into my head that I can relate Daryl. Some people will look at me and go, you know, Mel with a mustache. Well, that's great until I stand next to John, because John's got a mustache, you know. But whatever you use to relate and whatever works for you works. For me with modules is, as Rod said, I will associate it to something that I'm doing, or sorry, as Guido said, I'll associate it to the choreography, especially with focus modules. I'll associate it to the choreography, I'll picture it, and I practice it. And it's only through repetition and watching it happen over and over and practicing it over and over does it actually work for me. But you have to find what works for you.
And quite contrary to your dances, your living room furniture doesn't get bored.
That's one way of looking at it.
Mel,
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble remembering modules because I don't learn parrot fashion. I like to understand things to learn things. So I started when I went to bed at night, I'd actually go through the module before I went to bed, or as I was lying in bed, I kept repeating it and looking at it in my mind of where the dances were going. And in the morning, I knew the module, so my brain would tune in overnight. So that's how I started. Now I can actually read a module and memorize it and understand it, but that's how I had to do it to get it, because it just disappeared otherwise. Everyone's different.
You're going to find what works for you might not work for me, and it might work for other people. It's kind of like what system of calling you want to use or what methodology you want to use. The one that is right is the one that works for you. And that's really all I can say on is if it works for you, then use it. If the layout that I have on this reference sheet is not the one that you want or not the one that you like, don't use it. Create your own. But if it works for you, that's what you want. I'm having trouble posting the documents, so Mark has graciously asked me to send them to him, which I'm emailing to him right now. And if that works, he'll post them up when he posts the video online. The PowerPoint presentation may be in a PowerPoint or be in a PDF format, just so it fits, because it's over 10 megs in size. I haven't yet figured out how to reduce them in size.
Could I give you a very, very short module and you
Absolutely.
follow it in your head and tell me that you can't remember it at the end of it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Head couples, everybody, head couples pass through cloverleaf. You know where they are?
Yep.
Zoom, square through 3.
Yep.
Once again, heads pass through cloverleaf, zoom, center, square through 3. Here's your last time on it. Heads pass through cloverleaf, zoom, center, square through 3. Now, where are we?
Corner box.
Corner box. Can anybody repeat that to me right now? Raise your hand if you can. Yeah, that's the thing. You're seeing it in your head. Now, if you use that a few times, you've got a nice little module to take you to that corner box. Of course, your left hand's going to be available instead of the right. If you want the right hand, then I would say zoom, centers, right, left through, pass through. What the heck? You can make those little modular changes, but what are you doing when you make those modular changes, the little ones? you're still relating it to the module. And you have a reason for doing it that particular way. You want that right hand available instead of the left hand. But it's the bits and pieces. If you keep them simple, you can make those little modular changes as you go along. And it's like Mel says, it's a totally different picture then.
It is.
I probably talked too much, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's great. That's what these forums are about, is learning little things and little gems like that. Like when Jerry Story did in the symmetry version of the touch a quarter, all 8 circulate boys run, the symmetry touch a quarter, or sorry, left touch a quarter, all 8 circulate girls run. All these lights come, just those little gems. They're great. You find something like that that works, and especially, you know, pass through cloverleaf with a zoom has such wind in your face flow to get to that corner box. It feels so different. It's so vital. It's so vibrant that you're going to see it a lot. Yeah, Daryl.
Can I give you one other little gem? I think probably all of you already know this, but think about this for a while and look at it. Anything that will get you to the corner from a static square will get you to the corner from a corner box. In other words, if you knew that heads pass through in cloverleaf and zoom, new centers, right and left through and pass through might work. Is there a way that we could turn that into there? Not really. No. Okay, that's one that won't work. But give me a simple one. Something like heads right and left through, roll away, slide through. That's a very simple, close one, isn't it? From there, right and left through, roll away, slide through is going to get you to the corner. You'll be in those lines facing out, but you'd be in the same place as if you'd said heads square through 4, slide through, square through 3, on and left. Well, we'll head square through 4 that gets you facing the corner. If you're facing the corner in a corner box, if you square through 4, you'd be facing out in those same lines, wouldn't you? Now, you might not have the right hand available for that Allen and left, but you'd be in exactly the same place as if you did. Now, I say that, and I'm going to get out of here. I've got a pie in the oven. I'm going to go get it out of there. But if you take what I said and you sit down with your checkers, your dolls, or just your brain and start running through just that last little hint there, you can double your choreography just that quick. All right, but that's the power of modules right there. But thank you, everybody. Mel, fantastic job. Nice to see everybody, and I will be looking for you again one of these times. All right, and bye-bye with that.
Take care, Daryl.
Corner box to corner box. That's right.
Okay, I've posted those to you, Mark. But I'm having trouble. I don't know what's going on. It's saying I've got a server disconnect, but I don't know how I've got a server disconnect because I'm using my hard drive in the computer. So it's disconnecting from itself somehow.
If you take a corner box get in and you add a 0.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, that's less obvious.
And that'll work.
I don't know if they're talking to you or if they're talking.
I don't know. Whatever is coming through is quite garbled.
So
is that you? Yeah, you sound like you're a bit underwater. Is that you, Karen, talking?
She's muted.
Yeah, so yeah, I thought I was muted. So we were talking about Daryl's corner box, trying to understand Daryl's corner box, but kind of far away from the mic, and so I apologize for that. I don't know how we got unmuted.
No worries.
Yeah, I haven't received anything from you yet, Mel.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I may have to eventually reboot my computer, but I will make sure that they do get posted. And like I said, if my email is there, I'll put it up there again. if you want me to send these to you, I will.
Your email's in the chat now.
I just put it up there again. And as I said, the floor is open. If you want to look at that, if you want to look at how this sequence works, if you want to look at maybe developing a couple modules, we can do that. We can use terminations to do that and see how you want to go.
Mel, for the people who are teaching for the very first time, just ladies chain and circle 4 can achieve most things that you can achieve with the square throughs and the right and left throughs and the stars. If you have the head ladies chain and circle 4 3/4 and pass through, you have a corner box. If you do the same thing again, ladies chain, circle 4 3/4 and pass through, you've still got that same sort of setup. So you can use just those 2 early calls, you can do most things. If you play with them enough, you'll realize that you can probably circle half and then face the person beside you and you'll have a half sashayed couple. So there's all sorts of things you can do with those early calls.
One little module I use, Mel, that uses the run movement a bit differently is heads pass through, boy run around that girl run around that boy, slide through, and you're in a corner box.
Yeah, let's do that.
Howard, could you say that one again?
Sure. If you do heads or sides, doesn't matter, of course. Pass through, that boy run around that girl.
Yeah.
That girl run around that boy. So
Yeah.
it's an unusual run because it's, you know, from just a out-facing line, and have them slide through.
Thank you.
Well, it seems to be very strange on my computer, but according to my computer, I'm disconnected from the internet, but I'm still on Zoom. So I have no idea how that works.
Do you want to log out, Mel, and come back in again?
I was just about to suggest that. I just got to figure out how to make somebody host here. Okay.
Could be that Zoom has its own WinSock.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, I've made you host. I'm just going to get out and come back in. So admit me when I come back in, will you? I'll be right back. I'll be right back, everybody.
He's not responding.
Now we can talk about him while he's away.
Yes.
This has potential to go seriously wrong.
No, one thing, when I try to figure out what to do when I have a goal, I'll take a program list, mark one call with a yellow highlighter, and then I take a blue highlighter, light all those calls that I could call before the yellow highlighted call. Then I take a red highlighter, highlight all those calls that I could call after the yellow highlighted call. Then I figure out if the body flow works, if the position is okay. Not everything is good, but the first thing you take a program list and just manage to highlight the calls, the call combinations that are possible. When you've done that, you will find a lot of combinations that are good and you've never danced.
Mm.